So thank you for joining us for our second roundtable discussion of early childhood and some of the different challenges that we all face. I appreciate your participation today. Thank you for coming out. Our speaker today will be Sadie Ruholl. She is with ROE 3. And so you see part of her presentation up there behind us. But first, let's go around and please introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about the program that you have, your successes, your challenges, anything you just want to make sure that people are aware of, and opportunities maybe to collaborate. I'll start. So I'm Jana Schultz. I'm with the Effingham County Regional, goodness, I'm with the Alliance. Anyway, and we have a grant right now for community outreach. And I wanted to kick this off across the Birth to 5 Region 3 to be able to make sure that we're all kind of aware of what's going on in our various counties, because it is such a big geographic region. And so that we know who to contact when we need help, because a lot of times we're not sure where to go to. So I'm really glad that this group has started and look forward to learning more. So in the meantime, we have like a social media kit and yoga series and things. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'm happy to share those pieces. You can use it on your social media. And just other opportunities to collaborate too. Please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you for your time. I see Heidi next. Heidi, do you mind?
No, not at all. I'm Heidi Elliott. I'm the program manager for the Child Care Resource and Referral Program in Granite City, so SDA 14. And our services are child care referral, child care provider, community services, and provider services. Our team is kind of split into two. Also out of our office is a child care assistance program for families that need help paying for child care, and then data and other services.
Thank you for being with us today. This is a great opportunity to like look across regions. And then Courtney Hatcher.
Hi, I'm Courtney Hatcher. I am with the Child Care Resource and Referral Office located in Mount Vernon. We are also known as Project Child. That is our agency name. We do serve 12 counties, with Effingham being one of those counties that we serve, and have like services that Heidi mentioned. We have the Child Care Assistance Program that parents can use to help pay for childcare if they meet the income guidelines. We also, my particular role is I am a quality specialist, and I also am the recruitment, retainment, and referral specialist. So I do a lot of work with people who are interested in being licensed, and I help them through the process. And then I also work with licensed programs so that they can maintain their license, because we want to keep them in the field. And I also provide referrals for families that are looking for licensed programs in that area. So we have good supports for families and for providers across the board through our office. I think that's in a nutshell.
That's a lot. It is a lot. And we're really grateful because you're kicking off your business classes yet this month here in Effingham County. So I'm excited to see how those are received.
I'm actually in the process of doing them for SDA 14 right now, by the way.
That's great. Good. Good. All right. So Ashley.
Hello, I'm Ashley Baldridge, and I'm also with Project Child. My specific title is the Higher Education Navigator, and I am the one who helps support and lead early childhood incumbent workers to enhance their higher education so they can get their associate's degree or their bachelor's, or help them boost up in their Gateway's credentials. So if you need anyone, if you know anybody who needs help with schooling, just let me know.
Thank you, Ashley. It's really important. And we had a great webinar not too long ago with Courtney and Jamie talking about those pathways and how that can all work together starting in high school. So if anybody wants information about that, I hope that's getting shared out too as well. Heather?
I'm Heather Knott. I'm the Family and Community Engagement Specialist for Birth to 5 Illinois Region 3. Right now, well, my supervisor, Amy, presented last month, and we're still working on putting together the Action Council and the Family Council. We also have a Facebook group under Birth to 5 Illinois Region 3. If you try and find it, it's a group, not a page. And We're getting ready to send out the newsletter. So if you're not signed up for that, you can sign up for that on our website, birth-to-5il.com/region3. And I think that's it.
That's great, Heather. Thank you. Amy?
I'm Amy Robinson. I'm the regional manager for Birth to 5 Illinois Region 3. Heather, my little marketing genius. I really don't need to say much after her, but she is correct. We've had our first Action Council meeting, which is really exciting to finally get those off the ground. We're working on getting the Family Council stood up and getting those meetings started. So yeah, it's been a lot, but we're really excited that we're here in this place right now.
That's great. I'm glad you guys have met for the first time. Just a tangent. Were you happy with your meeting? Did you feel like you got the information you needed? And
well, it was a little bit of a fiasco because the internet at our office couldn't handle everything. But we've got this fixed. We've got it all done. We've done several run-throughs since then. But it was kind of more of an introductory. And this next meeting, everybody's getting ready to get their packets for it, and it'll be more of a deep dive into the data and kind of what's going on in Region 3. So yeah, I was glad it was a more calm meeting and didn't have all the really big important stuff, because this next meeting is when we really start the work.
thank you. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Okay. Sadie, I believe you're up.
Okay, can everybody hear me? And can everyone see my screen? Okay, I just put together a short presentation just so you had something to look at while I was talking. But I just planned today to kind of talk about a little bit about what the ROE3 is, and then what our program is, Learning Express through the ROE3, and also kind of like what purpose home visiting serves in the early childhood education and care landscape. And maybe talk a little bit too about, just briefly, about some of the differences in some programs that people get confused with, such as like early intervention and child welfare. And then I had added on at the end just to talk about, some of the barriers that the families that we serve have had to come up against when trying to find childcare or putting their kids in childcare. And maybe, some solutions to that. And then at the end, I have some information on something called the Basics, which is essentially it's like marketing for home visiting and early childhood care and education. So yeah, that's kind of what I have planned. And then I guess at the end, if you have any questions for me, then you can ask me some questions. So on this slide here, I kind of showed so the ROE does a lot of different things. Our superintendent is actually an elected position because the ROE is like a liaison between the State Board of Education and the school districts. So there's tons of responsibilities that she has that I have no idea what she does. But basically, we under the umbrella of ISB directed support services are all these different things. So we serve, on the left, you can see we serve Bond, Christian, Montgomery, Fayette, and Effingham County. So all the school districts in that county. A lot of our programs I think most of our programs actually are grant funded. Of course, there's a prevention initiative program, which is our program, what I serve in as a parent educator, the Learning Express program, prenatal to 3. So we serve families who are pregnant or have children up to the age of 3. Youth education. So we have in the building I'm at, we have alternative high school, alternative junior high, a RAP program, which goes along with truancy. It's just basically keeping kids in school. And then there's, I think Litchfield has our alternative education program, which is Christian County, and then Effingham has one as well. Then various educational services. So like some ladies across the hall, they will go into classrooms around the district and like support teachers and like lesson planning and things like that. We offer professional development classes here, program support, technology support, educator license, like all educator licenses are processed through the ROE truancy. So if there's kids that are not coming to school, high school equivalency, we connect people who want to get like a GED or a high school equivalency. We connect them to the right places for that. And then McKinney-Vento is a new program that started this past year, and it's a homelessness program, which has been pretty interesting to learn about. So yeah, that's just kind of an idea of some of the things that we do. As you can see, it's a lot, so don't have it all memorized. And also this is why it gets confusing. So the Learning Express program, which is the home visiting program that I work for, we are under the umbrella of the ROE3, but we are funded by we're funded by the Early Childhood Block Grant, which is also the same grant that Preschool for All is funded through. So we have our own grant for our program. You'll see me kind of looking over to the right here because I have my notes, but we have offices in Vandalia, Hillsborough, and Taylorville. Even though we serve Bond County and Effingham County, they have their own prevention initiative program funded with the block grant. So per our grant, they serve the families in those areas first. So that's why, right now we just have offices in these 3 areas. So, which is good because those are a bit bigger areas. So they were able to get their own grants for their specific communities. And so basically, like when you think of a prevention initiative program, I had gotten this off of the Illinois Early Childhood Asset Map, and it's defined as our program provides early, continuous, intensive, and comprehensive child development and family support services to help families build a strong foundation for learning and prepare children for later success. So when you think of like prevention, we're trying to start with the earliest of children so that they have the best opportunity to get started in life and prevent some of those risk factors that maybe their parents have, try to help them break those cycles. So early, obviously, prenatal to 3, that's the earliest years. And as Amy mentioned last meeting, 80% of brain growth happens from 0 to 3 and 90% by age 5. So it's a really important years. Continuous. So our program is year round. We don't have a break in services like, with usual, like traditional education classrooms get a break in the summer. We go through the year. So parents have support throughout the year. Intensive. So we try to meet with families weekly or bi-weekly, and weekly if we can, bi-weekly if it works better for them. Comprehensive. So basically like any aspect that's going to affect a trajectory of a family and a child's life, we are going to talk about with them or bring up with them. So like some examples I have is like brain development, obviously child development, but brain development, child development, substance abuse, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, things like that, cultural influence. Just a broad array of things. Our program is voluntary. So that's something else that, sets it apart from like when you think of, I know a lot of people, when I started this job, they were like, oh, you're going into people's homes. Like I was, DCFS or child welfare. And it's like, no, people want us there. These families, want that extra support for their family and their children, especially. So it's all voluntary, free. And then just to go into like some of the differences in different types of programs. So we're talking about home visiting, which which Learning Express is. And I just picked this quote because I think that it shows how home visiting is very parent-centered and parent-led. So you know, it's not us coming into the home and like telling the parents how to parent their children or teach their children. They really are their parents' first and most important teacher, as our Parents as Teachers curriculum says. So I thought this quote was good for that. So home visiting, when you think of that, it's parent-led prevention. So it's that prevention side of things, where we're trying to come in at the very start of the children and families' lives so that they can, you know, prevent, like I said before, some of those risk factors. And then something you've probably heard of, like early intervention. So this is more like therapist-led development support. In our program, we do child development screening. So say a child is like falling behind in a certain developmental domain, we'll refer them to early intervention, and early intervention will do an actual evaluation, like say for speech or for they always do a developmental therapy evaluation, and then they might do like a speech evaluation or a physical therapy evaluation. And then they come in and provide services in the home as well, or they can go to daycare centers, and they come in and they lead it's a therapist-led developmental support. So they often, like, their activities might look similar to that of a home visitor, but they're providing very specific developmental support for something that the child is like falling behind in after being evaluated for that, for their skills in a certain domain. So when you think of home visiting, it's like prevention, and then this would be like an intervention program. And then child welfare. I know everyone in here is familiar with this, but this is something I also have to explain a lot to like people that maybe don't understand what a birth to 3 program is. Child welfare is professional-led intervention. So again, it's another intervention that's led by a professional. The parents are obviously involved, but the professional is the one, you know, the caseworker is the one that's, you know, telling them these are the things that you need to do, providing resources and that sort of thing. So it's also an intervention where the family needs somebody to come in and give them extra support. This picture shows exactly what I do daily. It's like, this would be me, this lady in the purple, and then we sit on the floor with the family, the parent and the child. The child, we provide some sort of activity for them. We facilitate an activity, and then the parents are the ones that teach the child that activity and interact with their child. So in a nutshell, like visually, this is what home visiting is. And we use a curriculum called Parents as Teachers. And Parents as Teachers is an evidence-based curriculum. The State Board of Education has a few that they accept, and Parents as Teachers is one of them. And partner, facilitate, reflect is at the top, because this is basically the 3 roles that we play. So we partner with parents in the parenting process, we facilitate like the parent-child interaction and relationships, and then we reflect with parents on, you know, parenting experiences or like family experiences and their child's development, to get them kind of thinking about parenting and child development and their family well-being on a regular basis. And so like during a visit, I play these roles at the top, and then at the bottom, like these are the areas that we focus on. The parent-child interaction is the biggest focus of our visits, because obviously, you know, the program is the focus is the child, but also the parent-child relationship, because young children learn so much from their parents and caregivers, and they need that supportive attachment relationship. So we focus most of our visit on like that parent-child interaction, really trying to get them to interact with their children. And sometimes, like that might be like focusing on the activity, or if their child's not in the mood for that activity, it's whatever their child is in the mood for. It's very much about following the child's lead and play-based, because children learn best through play. So it's less about us coming in and saying, we're going to do this, as maybe like a early interventionist would do for a specific therapeutic purpose. We're coming in and saying like, well, let's see what your child does with this, and really try to keep it play-based and child-led. And then the parents, we encourage them to just observe their children and interact with them. And then development-centered parenting. This is where we talk about parenting topics. So we talk about, health, sleep, nutrition, routines, transitions, safety, all those things that involve like parents have to come up against on a daily basis. So we talk about that. And then the last thing that we talk about in a visit is, oops, sorry, this is supposed to say something else. This is me copying, pasting. I'll type it in here. Family well-being. And so the biggest premise for that is that a strong family makes for a strong child, and in the future, a strong adult. So family well-being is kind of, that the whole family unit, and those that the relationships that the family has with other people. So we talk about relationships, talk about like the health of the family overall, spending time together, recreation and fun. We talk about like mental health and stress reduction. So when you kind of think of all of this together, you can see where you get that like comprehensive part of it. So we cover a lot with families. And just kind of like a side note. So like a lot of our families we have a lot of families who, young parents, who just need the extra support. We're not income based, but most of our families are lower income. The program works out really well for parents who don't have their children in childcare, and stay at home, or don't have their children in childcare, who maybe they work, but they go to like their grandma's house or a friend's house, or maybe like one day they go to a friend's house and they go to relatives, like kind of bouncing around everywhere. So this introduces like a way that the child is getting like a developmentally centered support and learning in their life, that they may not get like if they go to a child care center. So those are a lot of our families are like that. I do have a couple families who work and their child goes to daycare as well, but they just have an extra interest. They qualify for the program because of their income usually, and maybe like their child's in early intervention, or they just want that extra support for their child, and they just want to like learn as much as they can about being a good parent. So those are some of like the families that we serve, and the families that we're good for. Our working hours are like during the day, so that kind of gives you an idea too of like why we serve those families, like maybe more than a family that has a regular like daytime job. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything over here. Oh, we do the developmental screenings. So let me go back here. We use screenings called ASQs. We screen for development in the areas of communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and social personal, as well as social emotional. We do a complete health review, just like on paper. So we try to help, we keep track of like immunizations, doctor visits, ER visits, like nutrition information, you know, how often is your child getting fruits and vegetables, safe sleep, lots of things on the health review. And then we also do vision and hearing screenings. So we have a vision machine and a hearing machine that we use. And our supervisor has told us, you know, if there's another agency that would like us to come in and do vision and hearing screenings for any of the people that they see, we can always do that as well, because those machines are pretty expensive, I know, and not everybody has them. So we can, that's something we can do as like for other agencies as well. So we do the screenings, and then let's see, we help transition the children into pre-K programs. So once they turn 3, we help them, you know, figure out what's available as far as preschool goes, help them with any paperwork they need to get together. If they need to set up any meetings, we can go with them. And then as far as like family well-being too, a big thing that we do is we connect them to resources. So it could be a new doctor or childcare. I'm constantly referring people to Project Child. Library, I'm telling people about the library a lot, you know, like recreation and fun, just anything in the community that they might need. I just helped a family like with energy assistance. Last time I know we talked about how homelessness, like housing was a huge thing, and that's been really hard because there's just nothing. And a lot of our families struggle with that, but we do what we can. Like I've written letters for families to advocate for them for various things, you know, for community agencies. So we do a lot of that. And then I just had some notes about like, you know, I had said earlier some of the families we serve, but one of the biggest things, so I serve on the Raising Illinois Home Visiting Coalition, like their group, and they did a survey, and basically like families said that the biggest thing they got out of home visiting was like a support person. So I mean, obviously, like we're helping them with their child's development, understand that, and parenting and stuff. But, you know, having that consistent person there every single week to, you know, to support them, they can talk about parenting and they can talk about their child, and just having somebody advocate for them was like the number one thing that families got out of a program like ours. So I just thought that was a really good thing to know because they trust us. They know that we're, you know, not going to be judgmental. We're not there to try and, you know, find reasons that they're not doing things right as a parent. So I just want to add that in there as well. So some of the reasons that families have come up against of like some of the roadblocks for finding childcare or like keeping childcare, these are just like some of the bigger ones that I've witnessed. And I do plan to like I would like to ask some of my like teammates some of their experiences as well, because this is just, you know, mine and my coworker Lisi in the Vandalia office. But work hours schedule, you know, a lot of our families, our work hours change, they're unpredictable. You know, a lot of daycares, they want you to like work, you know, they want you to have a spot that's like 5 days a week, which is understandable. You know, the way that the system works with childcare and them being able to make, money as well and like cover their costs, they have to have that paid for spot. Well, some families, they might work 2 days during the week and then work all weekend. And they can't say, that maybe they need childcare for a couple hours, but not all day. They want to spend time with their child. They don't want to have them there by 8 if they have to be there by 8. I know that the last child care center I had, it was like, you had to have your child dropped off by a certain time. Some of these parents don't work until later in the day, different shifts. So there's not childcare for like second shift, third shift families. I'm sure all of you guys know all this stuff as well, but maybe they work multiple jobs and it's a matter of like, getting their kid from, between jobs, from maybe like childcare to grandma's house or whatever situation it is. There's a lot of different situations. Perception of daycare. So this is something I surprisingly come across a lot, which thinking back to like whenever I grew up, which was like, well, I was born in 84. So like, late 80s, like early 90s, like I remember like on TV, like hearing about all these terrible things happen at daycares and I even remember like not having good experiences as a child at daycare. And a lot has changed to where there has been advocacy. So like daycare centers are a lot safer and there's a lot more safeguards in place so children are being cared for the way that they need to be. I know that because my children have always been in childcare centers and family home childcare. But that's a big roadblock. Like I have a lot of families that say, I don't want to send my child to daycare because they can't talk yet. They can't tell me what's going on. And they're scared of that. Or they've had a bad experience in childcare. Like I had one mom say when she was at daycare, she escaped somehow. Like she was like 5 or something and she escaped somehow, and like somebody like found her and had to take her back to the daycare, and I was like, oh my gosh. So just those type of things. And like I said, when I was younger, I remember like daycare, like my daycare teacher was mean, and the family daycare I went to, like I remember like we just had to stay in like her little girl's bedroom all day. Like there's things that people, have experiences with or things they've heard, like there's kind of this saying of like, well, you want your child to go to like somebody and not at a daycare with a whole bunch of strangers. So that was a big thing. Like I was very surprised about whenever I started this job and started having the conversation with parents about childcare for their young children. And then personal experience, I mentioned that already, if they had a bad experience as a child or as a parent. So some of the things, and a lot of this stuff too, is these solutions that I put on here as things that the initiatives that are out there are already addressing, but these are just some of the things like in a nutshell that I try to come up with of like, my experience in my profession, my experience as a parent, and just like through some of these meetings and stuff I've been in. One of the biggest things I think is language. So like, thinking about like, what are we calling our child care centers? Are we calling them daycares? Well, I mean, I know that most are open only throughout the day, but as we push towards having more flexible hours and things, should we be calling them child care centers or even like child care and development centers, something that reflects really what we're trying to achieve, which is prioritizing the education and growth and development of the young children in the care in these places. And then what are we calling childcare providers? I remember my oldest, I had her at when I was 24. And when she started daycare, I remember thinking like, when I just said it, daycare. When she started childcare, I remember thinking like, why is her provider called a teacher? Like, I remember thinking that as a young person, just like, that's interesting. Like, I remember it striking me as like, I didn't think to me, it was like, you drop your child off there, they care for your child. But now that I know, it's like, of course they're called teachers, they're teaching your child every single day. So, how are we talking about them? Are we talking about family home centers as our child's babysitters? I just think that's a really good conversation to start having. And then how are we talking about childcare to like our friends and our family? And how are we talking about early childhood education? As another, this would be like preschool or like even first and second grade. It's like a lot of times, it's like, oh, they go there and they like play all day and they take a nap, but there's a lot that's going on. And obviously the research is starting to reflect that it's very important. And we had a reflective supervision with our mental health consultant. And she was talking about how like she would do some trainings she said, especially middle school teachers, because she said there's kind of this lull in development during those years. And she said she would be saying some of these things about like brain development and learning and all this stuff. And like the middle school teachers would just be like, looking at her with her like, huh? Because, it's just not something that's in their repertoire. So, just it's like, how are teachers who are serving like older kids understanding like what came before this? What came before the sixth grader that I have? How did like their early childhood experiences shape, how they are now? So that's another thing for sure. And then administrators as well, because sometimes administrators can, especially if they don't have a background in early childhood, can be kind of removed as well from understanding, like what exactly we do as early childhood providers. And then professional support. So like I'm lucky in my job, and it's one of the things I love and I think keeps me motivated, is that I essentially like make my own schedule because I do home visiting. So I can take that day class or I can take a day off and go to training. But if you're somebody that is a teacher in a childcare center, you don't have that option. Families are counting on you. You have a little bit more responsibility to be there and every single day. So more accessible higher education, flexible professional development options, accessible higher education, just making like college classes more accessible for students who want to go into the field. And then family child care resources and support. I haven't talked to a lot of family care, child care providers, but I'm sure I can imagine they feel like they're on an island sometimes, out there alone. They're, working out of their homes, and they probably don't see a lot of colleagues and things like that. So, Courtney, you probably, know about that. And then higher education program expansion. So I know some programs are starting to do this. The U of I in Greenville started an online bachelor program for early childhood if you have your associates. Again, our mental health consultant, she told us about some places are starting at like multiple tracks, or like interdisciplinary tracks. So like, for example, you could get your BA in child development, but you could also get like a focus on like early intervention, for example, and diversification of courses. So like putting in, some of those like psychology, like mental health related coursework, nutrition and health and things like that. Some of those things that impact the early childhood field and young children a little more. And things that, you know, parents of young children like worry about and are starting to, like, those fundamental things that they're, you know, teaching their children about health and well-being. So, and then of course, compensation. We all need to get paid well, so that we can stay motivated in our jobs and preventing burnout. When we had our meeting with our mental health counselor, she had said that, so I guess like the highest stress job that's reported now, this was like before the pandemic, it is a neurosurgeons. And then after that is like police officers, first responders, and teachers. It's like, okay, that's kind of crazy that teachers are up there, you know, and with that level of stress too. So big responsibility, and they need to be compensated for that. And I know there's lots of talks about that as well. And I was also thinking too, you know, if, you know, like, for example, if somebody decides like, well, they like kids, or like, say you have a mom that wants to stay at home and she wants to care for her own children, and opening up a daycare might make sense, but it also has to make sense like financially for her family. Or, you know, if somebody has a passion for early childhood development, but they also want to stay home with their kids, like, you know, if the profession is taken a little more seriously and they're compensated the way that they should be, then, you know, it might allow them to have that profession, you know, go into that profession, which just puts more childcare available out into the community. So last thing is, has anybody heard of the basics? I hadn't heard of it. We had went and visited a PI, a prevention initiative program in DeKalb, to talk to them about their how they were using the basics. And like, our superintendent had went to a training and she said it was really interesting. So that's why we went up there to talk to them about it. But the basics is like it's like a privately and publicly like funded, it's not an initiative, but it's like organization, I guess. And basically, like, these 5 things are things that parents do on a daily basis to support their child's learning and development. And the point of the basics is to try to like connect with the community so the community understands the importance of it. So like everybody in the community is aware of the importance of early childhood education. And so like, for example, like anywhere, like you're probably going to have children. So you might go to a restaurant and there's like a placemat that has like the basics on it and like things that you can do to support these 5 things. And then you go to like the bank and there's like a poster on the wall and it says the basics, like it maybe is directed more towards like count, group, and compare, you know, as that has to do with like, you know, counting money or something like that. You go to the laundromat, there's a poster there, or you go to a hair salon, there's like some developmental toys with information about the basics. So it's like saturating the community with these 5 things that it's like family-friendly language, and things that they can actually like interact with. They had said their health department in DeKalb, they had like built like some sort of interactive thing on the wall at the health department. So then when families came in there, the kids could play with that. And then it's like, you know, your WIC nurse is talking about the basics, and your home visitor might be talking about the basics, and your childcare provider. And so it just kind of like connects the community to this idea of like, you know, young children are learning from the time that they're babies, through when they start school. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was really interesting. It's something that we've talked about using in our program, but it does take a lot of, extra work. The website's at the bottom for Illinois. They just started Illinois Basics this past year, which basically just means like you can use the information on their website to like marketing information off their website that says Basics of Illinois. I know you can like pay to have it like branded for like DeKalb had theirs like branded, and they had like a basics like recruiter and all this stuff like that worked with their coordinated intake, but everything on their website's free. If you just want to like use their imagery and their information too, but it's just the idea of it like that I think is really great. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys. So if you have any questions or want to talk about anything, then
Thank you,
I'm
Sadie.
done.
That was a deep dive into home visiting and childcare. My goodness. And thank you for this part at the end about the basics. That's interesting. It sounds like it's like a coordinated awareness campaign for early childhood. That's interesting. I wanted to ask, how many families do you have on your caseload?
We have, so our caseload right now is max at 12. I know Fayette County, we go back and forth between having a full caseload because there's Healthy Families, which is another home visiting, and they also have Early Head Start. So we have a little more, people have more options. But I do know Montgomery County and Christian County, like sometimes they'll have between 12 and 15 because sometimes they have a waiting list. And then we have, let's see, 2, 4, we have 6 home visitors right now, but our grant is written for 8, for up to 8. So like if we start to have a waiting list, we can hire 2 more parent educators.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we served like, I think it was like 90 families last year and 100 and some kids.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Sadie?
I do. So you were talking about how like Prevention Initiative is the block grant that you're using, but there are other counties who get the same grant. How does that work out when it comes to like requirements with the grant and stuff when you guys overlap?
So what I know is like, it's grant specific. So like for us, like for example, like for us in Effingham County, their prevention initiative program is called Effingham County Connections. And they, like per their grant, we cannot like enroll a new family who has a child like 0 to 3. Like we have to refer them to that program. We're not allowed to enroll them. I think if they have a waiting list, we could probably enroll them, but I don't think that that's happened. Like, I think that they, per their grant, like they've had enough where they could hire enough people. Because I think she said she hired her last parent educator because they've grown a lot. So now if they get a waiting list, we might be able to start serving new families. I'm not really sure about that part. My supervisor, Paula, could probably answer those questions more, but I do know like if I have a family that starts at our program and moves to Effingham, I can continue to serve them because they're already enrolled in our program. And then it's also written in our grant that our program serves teen parents in Effingham.
So you have like some overlap that involves like serving certain communities
Right.
or certain underrepresented populations, but also that you kind of pick up each other's backs when you're full.
Yes, that's like the,
Okay.
yeah. That's like the intention. That's the ideal version of it. See, whenever I went to DeKalb, they had something called coordinated intake, which basically they had an entire department who would refer, like, so if somebody wanted to join a home visiting program, they would have like people out in the community recruiting. If somebody wanted to come join a home visiting program, they would decide which program best suited that family in that county. So maybe it was Head Start, maybe it was Healthy Families, like Healthy Families has a doula service. So like a lot of the pregnant moms would go there. So their coordinated intake was useful because it allowed like it was family centered, you know, it allowed the families to go where they needed to go and what programs they needed to go to. We don't have coordinated intake. I think it's because we're so spread out across 5 counties, from what I understand.
Hi, Amy. This is Beth Wise with Effingham County Connections. We have actually been trying to get coordinated intake in Effingham for the past several years. Clay County Health Department, which our administration with the health department at Effingham and Clay is a shared administration, and Clay County has really had a coordinated intake for quite some time. We did just apply for the Bertha 5 grant to try to implement coordinated intake. We're very interested in the IRIS system across a lot of agencies that serve young children and families in the Effingham area. But we were not successful in the first round. So we're trying to coordinate and work with them a little more. I came from up near the Champaign area, which if you're familiar with that area, they have the Home Visitors Consortium, which has been wonderful when we've had families move in that direction. It's so great to be able to call one location and have them kind of figure out or work with all the programs together to find what's the best fit. And that's actually what's been happening at Clay for many years. They've got Healthy Families and PI and also Early Head Start. So they've all been coordinating that, and WIC. They've really been working closely together down there. So we're hoping to get that here soon. We continue to work on that. And we kind of use a referral system among all programs. So, you know, when I have families that move to Clay County or to Fayette County, I'll call Paula and we connect with each other and transfer families. Our program just started in 2018. We have not been full. We were actually full for like a second right before COVID. And then COVID really decreased our numbers. A lot of our families did not feel that video visits were productive, even though we offered them. So we had a loss during that time. It was also really hard to recruit. We're slowly building back at the current time, but hoping to be back full before long.
Thank you, Beth. I was hoping you'd jump in with some more of that background. That's excellent. And Amy, that's exactly what we've been trying to do. It's what a lot of this has, our community-based planning group has continued to build on work that was done even before then. And this coordinated intake would be a fabulous piece. And the basics would fit so well under that too, because then there's the advertising, the marketing piece to help build the awareness in the community and keep it all going. Yeah, it's just a lot. Any other questions for Sadie?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think of that video that Amy shared of how it's confusing for families, and it's just confusing in general to find out. It's like, where do I go for this? And like, you know, even just like with Head Start, like they can't, because we're under the same grant, they can't be enrolled in our program and Head Start. And so but they don't know that. And it's just, yeah, there's a lot of confusion.
I agree. I was just talking to Jonna yesterday about this, how like even our name, Birth to Five Illinois, is such a common, like we couldn't have gone out of the box just a little bit just to help the community out. Like, and so we have a lot of confusion about who we are and what we do. And we get a lot of people who come up to us and they're like, oh, you really helped my family out when their child had an issue. And I'm like, that's not us, but you know what I mean? So it's just these poor families, their map is just this big, huge squiggly line, connecting different places. And I feel like, we just need a more strategic way. And how awesome that most early childhood care and education people I know all have the same idea, that we need to make it easier for our families, and we do need to streamline it, and we all support each other in this.
I agree. And I was just thinking about that, of like, why did they call it Birth to Five? Because that's already something.
Every day, Sadie, every day.
Well, if there's nothing else, I just wanted to put a plug into, Beth shared with us at the Samantha shared with us at the Child Care Research Committee for Effingham County that we actually have 2 possible applicants for the Capital Development Block Grant for early childhood. So Amy, I kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that we hope to have 2 different applications. And I wanted to ask, from the other counties, is there anybody that you guys are aware of that might be writing for that early childhood opportunity?
Honestly, that goes above me. That goes up to Angela. But that's information I can look at. I can actually ask her and she'll let me know. But I do know that because there were some areas that were more left out, like they saw the spots that weren't really being fulfilled, and that's why they opened it back up. Like, hey, we still have some big missing pieces in this state that aren't getting these grants. So yeah, but I can look into that and see kind of who else has shown an interest, or at least, contacted Angela, and seen, if nothing else, had questions to see if they would qualify. That seems to be a lot of what we're getting right now is, hey, how do we qualify, or do we qualify?
Amy, are you talking about the Birth to Five grant reopening or the Capital Development grant?
I was talking about the Birth to Five grants that are reopening.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think I confused. I was doing the Capital Development Grant, which is actually the buildings for early child care, which we're excited about too. So just wanted to share that. And I was kind of curious if any other counties are across our Birth to Five Region 3 were applying.
Not that I've heard, not that have told me. You guys seem to be really, like, Effingham County is on it. You guys you guys go, and you have a vision and a mission, and you guys are on it. So yeah, kudos to you.
Amy, would you recommend applying again if you were turned down in the first round?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And you can even, the contact information, which I will have to look up, the contact information, you can even ask them why, like, what do I need to fix? What was not acceptable? Like, why wasn't, they'll give you info.
Well, we met with Angela, and I mean, I know why we weren't. I just don't know how to make it. I don't know how to fix that at the current time.
Email me and I can kind of look over that.
Enough.
Yeah, I feel for you on that one. But if I have any advice I could give you, kind of as a, well, this might help or this might help, I'm more than happy to provide that for you.
Okay. Because they really we met with Angela, and she really, I think, steered us toward the next round that's coming out, right? We don't have that consortium, or we don't have that as that piece that's there.
So Beth, was that the planning grant that was also announced then? Is that what you're thinking about, the 500,000?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, because that's opened up too, it looks like.
Is it open now? I thought it was coming.
Well, I saw the email. It probably said coming and I thought it was open.
I think the 134,000 is open right now. But
I think
Right.
they're
that's,
talking
think
December.
the planning's coming in December.
I think that is what they're telling
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that though.
the
There's
email,
like
so.
600 grants between the DHS, all the INCRA stuff that is put in
I
my ear
know.
daily.
I'm just, I don't know if Amy, have you seen the IRIS system? I'm so fascinated by it, and it would be so beneficial here, I feel like, among all agencies and programs, but specifically for coordinated intake. But I think the expansion possibility to the whole community is really intriguing as well.
I use IRIS in Madison County. We have a coordinated intake that is a pilot right now. So it's slowly building. It started with home visiting, is moving on from there. We have the health department now, WIC. And IRIS is amazing. It's an online system. So instead of putting a sticky note on somebody's desk or leaving a voicemail, it's all electronic. So you can track referrals, which ones were accepted, which ones were denied, which ones families rejected. It's really a great system.
Yeah, I really love the visual to that. Thanks for sharing that you've had a positive experience with it. Do you mind me asking like how your funding stream works, or you're just a pilot, so they're letting you try it out?
Well, we started with PDGB-5 funds about 1.5 years ago, and then we just got the Birth of 5 grant. So moving forward just for that one county, and then we partner with St. Clair County. So our coordinated intake refers to that coordinated intake. So it's kind of they talk to each other that way. We've talked about trying to expand IRIS, but it's do we, don't we? How does that look on paper? So we're working with the IRIS comes out of Kansas University. So we're working with our KU contacts and trying to figure out if we do bring everybody in under one IRIS umbrella, what does it look like? How do we track data? Because that's always a huge piece of reporting, right? How do you track outcomes? How do you track data? How do you track all those pieces that you need to report to funders and things to make sure it's meets the needs that way too? So, but it's right now it's under those two umbrellas.
Did your costs decrease significantly after the first year?
I don't know what it was in the budget for this last time. I'm trying to think and I can't remember, and I don't want to misquote anything.
They kind of talked to me about initial startup. I mean, and it was almost double what the subsequent years would be, which the subsequent years, I think if you had enough agencies participating who would all, I mean, I think your costs per agency could be fairly small to participate in it. And
I think too, it depends on if you still want that support system from KU, where like as part of the pilot piece out of PGB5, we had to, we work with KU every month. We have a monthly meeting with them. So to help support that implementation, so that could be why your cost is higher the first year compared to subsequent years, but really their input and their help along the way to implement the system and start the coordinated intake is really invaluable that first year, if not two.
yes, I do believe that was, I think that was the big piece that was included the first year, was their support to get it up and running. And you found that highly valuable.
I don't know how I would have done it without them, because they really have everything all planned out in, I want to say like 15 stages or 15 steps that take you and all of your collaborative partners through the system, through their own work, how to develop your community standards, the rules that everyone lives by in that IRIS system, and in referrals to decision trees and how to make sure everyone's making the same decisions if you to make sure it's a fair and equitable disbursement of referrals, to even working through your environment to what system changes your own collaboration needs to make the referral fields work better for what your collaborative partners need to make referrals easier. We've added a lot of comment boxes and things that aren't originally in the IRIS system to allow for more information to be passed on to partners. So they really do lead you through consents. They lead you through everything. So, I mean, that is the piece that I think it would have taken 3 times as long without their laid out plan and support.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Sadie, for presenting. We appreciate it. We'll do this again on the 3rd of November at noon, and I'll send out a Zoom link. Our presenter is going to be someone from Project Child. I think, Courtney, we have that. Yay. Okay, great. Is it Jamie or will it be you? Both? Okay, great. So it's Jamie and Courtney. Fantastic. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks
Thank you,
for coming today.
everyone.
Thank you so much.